Hello, everybody.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Underground Video Network's Behind the Counter. Richard, we need a new name, at least for this right here. Like behind the desk or, in front of the awesome action figures. But yeah, welcome to this episode of Behind the Counter, the COVID edition, as we're calling it.
Hello, hey, everyone. Trying to share it here.
We have a special guest, and I don't even know what to say anymore, Richard. We're not in the studio. We're not at a con. We have a special guest on my phone and Richard's computer. We have with us Josh Nealis. Josh, how are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Josh, gotta ask first of all, amid everything going on, how are you, man?
Good, I guess. As good as you can be. There's that meme going around about how a lot of people are realizing how boring their lives are since it hasn't really changed anything for them. And I'm kind of one of them as far as, my Monday through Friday kind of stuff. But obviously with Comic-Cons being down and stuff, that's hurt everything else. So yeah, I get to come home and watch TV just like normal, but when I want to go out and hang with my friends, and the Comic-Con thing has been the biggest thing for me personally. It's hurt the business quite a bit. So
yeah, we have a lot of friends in the business, and the sad thing is with like all the news that goes on about, I'm not deterring from it, small businesses and everything. The one thing that the media really hasn't even touched on is the huge number of people that rely on things like Comic-Cons, for their income and for their business. They always talk about, the small mom and pop shops, and everybody's happy that, amid the regulations that, the big chain stores are open again, and even the smaller stores are open again, but there's still a huge area of the economy that it's not there.
Yeah, even it's not just Comic-Cons, there's concerts and all that kind of stuff. Any kind of traveling something or other. I'm sure the bearded lady is probably living in a box behind Walgreens or something right now.
I know this is another example how sometimes Facebook does more harm than good. This would have been the opening weekend for the Ohio Renaissance Festival. So, I got all the, all day today was the memories from 4 years ago, and memories from 5 years ago, and memories from last year. And I'm just like, shut that algorithm off, I don't need to be reminded that a big hunk of my life I can't do right now.
Yep. Yeah, that's at least once a month, because that's usually I do at least one con a month, and that's how it's been. I usually on my way to work I'm checking my memories, and it's like, shit, this was supposed to be Neo Comic-Con or Monroe Pop Fest or any of them. It's like, man, God, it sucks.
Yeah, it's like 11 years ago was Champion City Comic-Con's first con.
Yeah. And then the other weird thing too is we've become so indoctrinated with the way things are now. When I look at those memories and I see like me in a group of people, I'm like, oh no, what was I doing around all those people? Look at I was handling a turkey leg outdoors. Like, no, it's like completely changed everything.
Watching movies and shows and stuff, you're like, what are you doing? My kid was watching like Ryan's World. I don't know if you know what that is.
Yeah.
But like the mom was like playing with a car on a table at McDonald's, and I was like, oh, you better watch that.
Yeah. I really do. I get the feeling that once everything settles down, the vaccine comes out and the world gets back to somewhat normal. I don't think it's ever going to go back to normal. I think a lot of the things that we've trained ourselves for now are really going to carry over, once the crisis is over. And again, like you said, like concerts, you're going to be enjoying the show, but at the same time, you're looking at the guys next to you, rubbing elbows, like, too close, man. Yeah. I'm antisocial to begin with. I'm really digging the 6 feet thing. Like, no, you stay away. Just back,
Yeah. For my day job, I work in the medical field. So as far as like the cleanliness and all that, washing my hands.
Oh man.
I've been doing that for years, so that's not new for me, but I drive a lot. So when this thing first started, I want to say the first couple of weeks, especially like after the lockdowns and stuff, I'd be going to Cleveland and I'd be like right down by the stadiums and there'd be like 5 cars. Like,
yeah,
it was awesome for me. Like driving everywhere, I was like, this is great. Like there's nobody here, no traffic. But once everything, once people started getting out again, I got stuck in traffic. Like months later, I was like, oh, this sucks.
I honestly, I was the same way too, because my job is nowhere near as cool as you. But I work for Whirlpool. I make freezers. I don't even make freezers. I look at freezers, but we're essential. And, when I first started working there, I started working there just before COVID hit. And I was there for a few months when everything went down. And I was the same way, that the drive to and from work went from packed and busy to me and a few semi trucks,
right.
Like I'd be able to whiz through that one little small town on the back roads and not see anybody. But I got used to it. I got spoiled. But then, once restrictions were lifted and, all the Family Dollars that are like a block away from each other reopened, then I'm getting back to the traffic. I'm like, man, I kind of miss the abandoned, Night of the Comet type feel.
It was very Walking Dead. Like that's kind of how it felt.
Yeah.
For a while there. That's funny. You work at Whirlpool. I worked at the one here in Finley for not very long. I mean, years and years ago. And then in Clyde, they have a PT part, and the company I work for my day job, we take care of their PT equipment. So I was just at Whirlpool in Clyde, like, what was it? It might have been last week, I think, something like that. So it's kind of funny.
It is a real small world. Our one of our mutual friends, or one of me and Richard's friends, Frank, who was on the show a couple weeks ago, he's a comic book creator, but like everybody else, he's got to pay the bills. So he took a job as I think they call it like deep cleaning. They're not just like your standard, come in and like custodial. They're there to like do a deep cleaning, and I'm in my one area at work and I hear the door open and I look up and it's Frank, it's just like, hey, what are you doing here? He goes, yep, just wiping everything down, and talked to him for a second and he left. I'm like, this job is bringing in everybody I know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's funny. The comic book community it is strange how small it can be at times.
Yeah.
I've met so many people. I've really only done cons, Ohio, Michigan. I went to Tennessee once. And I want to say when I went to Tennessee, like, dude across from me I knew, the dude next to me I knew. It's like, what are you doing here? So it's just weird how that works.
And it's not even like the con community. Funny story, I told Richard about it a couple weeks ago. I was in my backyard, sitting in my swing, enjoying a drink and reading my comic books, when the census taker showed up. I felt like I was back in like the 50s when the census guy actually came door to door.
Right. And
I was tired and I was cranky, and I probably wasn't as polite to the strange man coming in my backyard as I could have been. Once I realized he was on the level, he's like, 5 minutes, that's all I need. He asked me some questions and I'm like, all right. He looks over and he sees the comic books I'm reading. He goes, so what you reading? And I just think he's being nice. So I go, well, I'm reading Harley Quinn. He goes, oh, I haven't picked up the new one yet. Have you read DC's Heavy Metal yet? And I went, that was a deep cut for, that wasn't like your Captain America or Superman. That was a deep cut comic book. And I'm like, dude, don't bury the lead. You come into a guy's yard, you see he's reading comic books. Open with that. Have a seat, buddy. I lied to you. It is only me,
Yeah.
But it is great. Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't have 9 kids, so I don't need the tax relief. But it's great. Like you said, the comic books and especially cons are just a great community. And that's one of the things that we miss most because, Richard is a creator. I'm not a creator. When we go to cons, it's to do stuff like this.
Right.
So we get a really good chance. Like we met you, was at Jim and Dan's. Mm-hmm. That was one of the few times that we had, a table because, normally we're walking around. So for us, we jump around. Our goal is to meet as many people as possible. And we've realized over the past few years, the cons we go to, we know more and more people. And then it really dawns on you, like during COVID, I have a massive group of friends that I am not going to see for another year.
Yeah. I've got friends I haven't seen for a couple years now. And, you talk to them on Facebook and then you're like, oh, man, I haven't seen that guy in a long time. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things I tell people, I've been doing this for like 5 years now. In the groups and in real life, I get people ask me, what should I be doing at a Comic-Con and all that? And, I tell them, like, you're not just there to make sales. You're there to network. You're there to get pictures with cosplayers. You're there to find good deals on stuff. If you collect toys and comics and whatnot, make the best out of every situation. And especially, if the con, as they sometimes do, they don't get a big crowd. So you need to be there working it. Work at every angle you can. I'm doing you guys' podcast now, and we met, it was like a year ago or something like that. So
this time last year, wasn't it, Richard?
Yeah, it was just last year.
This time last year, but yeah.
So, it's all part of it. You make the best of every situation. So
yeah.
I was just thinking, let's
go ahead,
move on. Let's start asking about the comics. I know you've got did you have a couple more comics just come out during this pandemic?
Well, and yeah, I was going to mention that a little earlier and I got distracted, but it's kind of funny,
we do that.
This pandemic, I'm seeing a lot of creators have really buckled down and they're getting their work out. And that's what you need to do. You need to be flexible and fluid. You're not doing comics and you're not making the sales, but make something,
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did. I do that anyway. I haven't really jumped up a little, I guess maybe, but I'm always working on 2 or 3 projects at a time. So yeah, just I forget, it was like a couple months ago, I had my new book come out, which was Pedo Man and Kid Friendly #3. And then at the same time, Cutthroat Comics as a company released our first book published by us, not written by me. And that's called Carl Vincent, Vampire Hunter, Foul Blood #1. And the sales on that, even despite not having cons, have actually been pretty cool. Like, I want to say almost every sale I've made has included that book for the last 6 weeks or 2 months or whatever it's been. So I'm really happy about that as somebody that's, putting something out there to try to sell it. That's not my baby. I'm trying to make money off of it. My work is one thing. I want people to love it and enjoy it and sell it and buy it and stuff. But yeah, when like I said, this guy brought me this book and I was like, I think I can sell this. And then when I do, that makes me happy. Really happy. So, and that should make him happy too. It gives me more confidence in him as a writer. So
I think you try to look at the bright side of everything. And, we've talked to a lot of creators before, and a lot of them have said the same thing, where it's not that they relied on, a lot of them did. They relied on comic book conventions to get their product out. The problem is, not the problem, but the thing is the technology like this has always been there, but it didn't seem like people didn't have a reason to need to utilize it. It's like, why do I need to bother, setting up a YouTube page or do this when I got this con, in a month and this con in 3 weeks and this right here? So the technology has always been there. A lot of our friends are finding out, now that, cons have been stopped for the foreseeable future, they're using this technology and they're finding out how big of a boon it is. It's actually helped them. Because what was it? We talked to our one friend, and he'd post stuff, like to Facebook, and it was mostly just, hey, I'm going to be here, and he'd get likes and views. But now that he started doing like online sketches and publicizing himself more, he's branched out. It's not just the Midwest that's taking notice of him. People across the country are, people that he never would have been exposed to. Now that he's using, like the Zoom and the Live and everything, he's getting a lot more. A lot of them are getting a lot more attention. Have you noticed that too?
For us, because I published that other guy's book and he's been kind of lending his hand and promoting Cutthroat Comics a little bit more. Yeah, I'm seeing a little more attention. But that's what I mean about being fluid you have to be able to adapt. I want to say it's like 90% of my sales came from cons and stuff. And now with I've been doing more podcasts and stuff like this, been trying to be more of a salesman on the internet. I'm a pretty damn good salesman in real life, I think. I'm a trained salesman. I did it for a number of years. So I know, how to talk to people. I know how to ad lib, and I can figure out what they want. I can kind of tell if they're interested or not. So at cons and stuff, I'm good. If you step up to my table, I'm going to do my damnedest to make sure you leave with something. But over the internet, it's a different animal. You got to figure out how to promote yourself and all that. And, I'm just one guy, really. I've got Kevin Gibbon is the guy that wrote Carl Vincent. And then my main artist is Cristiano Reyna. He lives in Italy. And so he can't really help me out too much. So really, it's just me, doing everything. I wear every hat in the company pretty much. So usually year to year, I pick something that I'm not as good at and I work on it. So like last year was a creating year. This year was supposed to be a sales year. But, so now it's turned into a networking and podcast interview year. So I flipped it there. I was like, all right, that's not going to work. So we'll do this. So next year will be a sales and con year. Maybe.
Yes. No, we got to be positive about that because my wallet can't afford it. I thought I was bad. Me and Richard have this joke where the bigger the con, the less money I spend. The smaller the con, where it's more people that I know, I just can't stop. So I thought, well, if the cons are gone, I'm going to save some money this year. And then next thing I know, everyone's taking cues, the social media. It's like, hey, we're offering, this Kickstarter, we're doing this and we're doing that. And then my innate need to buy stuff and also my love of helping my friends, it's just like add to cart, add to cart, add to cart, add to cart, add to, and like I'm calling Richard like, man, you need to talk. Richard's usually the one that talks me down when we go to shows. I'm calling him up, man, talk me down, man, talk me down.
I'm the same way. I walked into a toy store. A buddy of mine had been telling me about it. And like I said, since I travel for work, I was kind of driving through that town. And I was like, hey, that toy store is here. I should stop real quick. 15 minutes later, I walk out with $200 worth of He-Man shit.
Oh, yeah.
And then I got home. I got home last night, and my washer broke, and I was like, shit.
Oh, yeah.
So, but no, I mean, it's all right. But still, I was like, boy, I could have used that $200, right?
Oh, I've done that before too. Something goes wrong, and I look at that new Lego box that's in the trash, and I'm like, I don't need to eat this weekend.
It's fun stuff, though. I don't regret anything I bought.
No, me
So,
neither.
so do you have some more projects coming up? You was talking about something coming up soon, right?
Yeah, hopefully by December, I hope, will be Ginger Avenger #3. And this is a big book for us because so we have I have 3 main comic book series that I write: Stingray, Petal Man and Kid Friendly, and then Ginger Avenger. So I did Stingray 1, 2, and 3. Sorry, I did Stingray 1, Petal Man 1, Ginger Avenger 1, and then 2, 2, 2, and now we're doing 3, 3, and 3. So this is the last book of the single runs. After this, all 3 of them are going to have their own like Avenger style team book. But this Ginger Avenger 3, man, I can't remember the term for like the next to last episode of a series. I forget. I looked it up the other day, and it escapes me again. But this is everything's coming together. You know, these books, much like the MCU, I'm kind of not copying them, but kind of copying them. They've all kind of crisscrossed a little bit, and the further we get into it, it's more the full hand crisscross. So this one's it's bringing a lot of stuff to light. You know, because I had a review that didn't go so well not that long ago of, I think it was Ginger Avenger 2, and the guy was like, I don't understand this, and I don't understand that, and I don't understand this. And I wrote him, I said, hey man, you understand that we're going, you know, this is present and then this is the past, you know, like we're jumping around. I was like, when we get to #3 and you read it, you're supposed to kind of read it as a whole thing. It's all going to come together. And that's what's happening in this book. As I was writing it and as Cristiano was drawing it, like I can see, he's like, oh, okay. Because he didn't even know what I got planned. You know, I just tell him one script at a time. So for me to sit and write it, I was like, this is going to be awesome. Like the people that like Ginger Avenger 1 and 2, they really love that book. It's probably my best because it's closest to something Marvel and DC might do. Like it's like, you know, Petal Man is very satire, very Family Guy, very joke. I mean, it's just joke after joke after joke. And Stingray's more like violence and some cursing, and it's got a good story too. The story in Petal Man it's stupid. I mean, there's no real story. There's not many wheels turning with that. It's just like dumb front to back. But Ginger Avenger has a lot of layers, and especially in this one with a lot of stuff coming to light, I really got to dive into the characters and like give them full dialogue where I wasn't being cautious about how they say something. They can just like straight up put their feelings out there, and it's going to be really cool, I think.
Well, you definitely have my interest because sometimes you hear the title of something, you're like, that sounds cool. But then sometimes you hear the title of something, you're like, I want to hear more about this. Tell me a little bit more about this Ginger Avenger. Because I just can't stop saying it. That's one of the great things right there, where you get somebody hook, line, and sinker. Is like that. Yeah. You know how you have a song stuck in your head? I'm going to have Ginger Avenger. Just Ginger Avenger. I'm going to have that stuck in my brain now.
Yep. So that's 1 and 2 right there. And then there's a little promo video that I made, and it actually has the music in all my promo videos is from my former band called Until Forever. If you go to their Facebook,
that's awesome.
Yeah, you go to that Facebook, you can download all the songs for free. Like we're not together anymore, so we were just like, take it. But Ginger Avenger is like, I always describe my 3 books as like 3 different parts of my personality. You know, Stingray's very crass and violent. I'm not violent, but you know, in my head I'm violent.
Everybody has those urges, yeah.
Right. And then, you know, Petal Man is goofy and silly and stupid and corny and sarcastic. But Ginger Avenger is like that deep, like not sensitive, but like, yeah, kind of deep thinking, very honest, got your superhero. But basically the story is like an alternate history kind of. So it turns out there's a cave in Ireland that if you fall into the water inside the cave, it kind of judges you, kind of like Thor's hammer, sort of. And if you're worthy, then you become the new Avenger. So through the story, you get to see that like King Arthur was an Avenger, and then Robin Hood was, and William Wallace almost was. But So Donnie, the main guy, he's like an archaeologist. He's been looking for this book or for this cave for like his whole career of being an archaeologist, like through school and everything. Finally finds it. And when he gets there, like he doesn't notice that the like Celtic hieroglyphics are lighting up around him and stuff, like as he's walking through. So it's like kind of judging him as he goes. And there's like these neat little rhymes and stuff that he follows. And he gets startled and he falls into the water. This kid startles him. And this kid ends up being 2,000-year-old, and he got the blood of Jesus on him. So he actually has the powers of Jesus himself. So he's kind of immortal. And in book 2, you get more of his backstory and you see who he is and stuff. Like he lived through that. He was on the Titanic, and like he was in the boat with Molly Brown. And instead of
that's
staying in the
awesome.
boat, yeah, he just like got out and walked like across the Atlantic. Stuff like that. He was in the Holocaust, like Ginger Avenger 2. I think it opens up with him, and he's in the attic with what's her nuts.
Anne Frank.
Yeah. Anne Frank. And he's there when she gets captured and stuff. And it's like I said, it's got this alternate history to it. It's very deep, and the story for this one is very thought out and very planned and very organized. And that's why I think the people that have bought it swear by it. They really enjoy it. And it's detailed too. You know, I did a lot of research making sure all the uniforms and everything was right on. So I hope it's all correct. Best of my ability, all that kind of stuff is correct. Because it's, you know, there's a lot of time periods going on in this one.
Yeah. And see, your fan base, the comic book fan base, is so fickle when it comes to stuff. They have no problem with a man that has the power to stop a locomotive with his pinky. But if that third button on the Civil War uniform wasn't brass, like it was in real life, then they go absolutely nuts. So knowing that you did the research on that is very impressive.
Well, you know, and I tried, you know, and like I said, Cristiano's from Italy, so there is a little bit of I think he's gotten better with his English and stuff as we've been doing this for like 5 years almost, or 4. Him and I started with my first novel and then did the comic book after that. So it's been about 4 for him and I, but we've grown as a creating team, and we've gotten a lot tighter and better, I think. As you read, you know, through the books, I pointed because they're up here graded, but yeah, as you read through the books, I mean, Stingray, I still think Stingray #1 is good, but you know, as you get through to the other ones, I think you can see the growth of me as a writer, him as an artist, and us.
Right.
So that's, I mean, our 9th book. I mean, it's going to be awesome. Yeah, there's Stingray.
Oop, sorry.
No, you're fine. So yeah, the cover of #2 there you can see was done by Matt Horick. I don't know if you guys have ever met him. You probably have, right? He does Gem City. You guys probably been down there.
Yeah.
So he works for Marvel. He does Punisher right now. He does Spider-Man, Deadpool. He did that cover for #2 there, the one in the middle.
Cool. I hope you didn't mind me showing this stuff. I like to do that.
No, yeah, you're fine.
I'm glad you did that, Richard, because it avoids me doing this, because I have to do this podcast on my phone because my computer's a hunk of crap. So when he blows up something, I'm like I'm glad he's showing it on the screen so nobody sees me doing this, you know. Even though I'm a moron, I actually have the website. Damn it, I have it on my computer, Richard. Why did I do that? Oh. But yeah, that sounds yeah. We've talked to people too, and it's great for us. You know, when we meet somebody like you, it's great for me and Richard as people, because we really want to see our friends succeed. Not only because, you know, we love these people and we want to see them succeed. We also want to be like, hey, you like that book, do you? We used to share a table with him back in, you know, the early 2000s, you know.
You sound exactly like me. I think I post stuff like that all the time. It's like, for indie comics, like, I've not met anybody that I think is probably behind my back, like, that dude sucks, I hope he fails. You know, I know those people probably exist, but there's no point in that, especially in indie comics. If one of us succeeds, and I had a post the other day where I rattled off like 10 indie comics that became shows and movies. And I did that to point out to people, do you understand that if you're not reading these books, these things that you love don't get made? And as an indie comic publisher, I would love to see one of my like friends get their book picked up for a movie or a show or sell 1 million copies, because that only helps us. Because then, just like with indie bands, because like I said, I did that for a while. I think that people forget that these things don't just pop out of nowhere. You know, they come from somewhere, and they need support at this ground level before they can have the success and the appeal to, you know, a lot of people. So yeah, I'm always rooting for, you know, unless I like straight up don't like the guy because he's a jerk or something, I'm always rooting for people, no matter who you are. Even if your book sucks, I hope it does well, you know?
Yeah. That's why when I meet people and I introduce myself to them and I tell them about the show that we do. You know, we go to Comic Cons and, you know, we interview people. They're like, oh, what famous people have you met? I'm like, no, that's not what we're about. Because that guy who's working for Marvel, who's, you know, making a ton of money, he's got his time. We're not interested in those people. That's legitimately, and not just because, you know, the indie guys are usually the ones that like will talk to us, you know. It's not like Mark Wade's knocking on our door, but the fact that, you know, we've seen so many of our friends, you know, get that early glimmer of a shot, and knowing that, you know, we were there to help, you know, even you know, like 100 or, you know, 5-10 people, you know, watch this, you know, just being part of that creative process in any way that we can is always fulfilling for us. And we will always be fans of the indie guys because we've seen firsthand the raw talent, you know, that this guy walks past a dozen tables of indie comic books to go get his autograph with this guy. It's like you're missing out on so many great stories because you can't, you know, just take a second and, you know, pick up the book or everything. That's why we focus on the more indie people, you know, because we've seen firsthand, we've become friends with people firsthand that I've seen books. We have legitimately, not just because they're our friends. I've read comic books from friends of ours that we created that are leaps and bounds above anything you're going to find, you know, on the shelves right now.
Well, as an indie, you get that freedom to write what you write. You get that soul. You know, you don't have, and I'm not an expert on how Marvel and DC works necessarily, but you don't have an editor coming in and saying, well, you can't have that line because that clashes what this book over here 3 months from now is going to say. You know, so you have a tailored story and you get this purity to it, you know, just like I always compare it to bands because I know bands because that's what I did. You know, you get this purity where, you know, you're not getting meddled with. You're writing from your heart what you know, are trying to put out in the world and what you're trying to express. And, you know, when you get books like Image Books and Dark Horse, you know, I'm sure they come in and maybe say something from time to time, but more or less that, you know, a creator makes the book and gives it to them and they publish it. And that's what I want to do from Cutthroat Comics. You know, when Kevin gave me his book and I read through it, I want to say there might have been like 3 lines that were like a little bit clunky. And I said, why don't you change this line to something a little different? But other than that, I didn't touch the story and I don't plan on it. It's his story. I want him to tell his story. But, you know, I'm trying to put out a quality product. And I tell other indie people all this, you know, this all the time is whether you like it or not, you are in direct competition with Marvel and DC. So your product needs to be as good, at least looking visually, as Marvel and DC. When I first started with Stingray, I can tell you right now, if you opened up Stingray, you know, some of the ads and stuff were a little juvenile because I did them. But now as we've progressed, I realized that. I was like, you know, I would open a Marvel and I'm like, all right, I see what they did there. You know, so I need to not emulate, but emulate kind of, you know, I need to make my product look as presentable as they do. So it's not just, yes, you have to write a good story, but it has to be appealing and it has to look professional at the same time.
And I feel like talking to creators like you have to work even harder because you don't have these well-known licensed products to just fall back on, because
Right.
it's like, okay, the last 3 issues of Batman were, they suck, but guess what? People are still going to buy them because it's Batman. But when it comes to the indie comic books, you have to work even harder because, like, right now, early on, you don't have that license, that name brand, marketing value to fall back on. So it's like you have to put in that much more effort. And like you said, you have to put in that much more detail and work.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes a long time. This isn't a short game I'm playing here. I'm playing the long game. I hope, you hear stories, what was Stan Lee, like 33 or 34 or 40 or something when he wrote his first comic or something. I don't remember the exact numbers, but, I'm almost 40 myself. So I don't feel like I need to hurry because he had a lot of success in his life and he was older
Right.
doing it. But at the same time, yeah, I'm kind of in a hurry because I want to enjoy.
Yeah.
I want, I'd love to build this company into something for my kid who's 5. I would love for him to grow up and like to do it, like the Ditko, or is it Ditko? Who's the, thinking of the artist.
Rimado.
Kubrick or Kubrick.
Oh. You're talking about Rimado, where his son took over for him, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So actually in Ginger Avenger 3, I teased it in Petal Man 3, but in Ginger Avenger 3, my son one day was walking around the house doing whatever, and he was like, "I'm Tornado Kid" or whatever, and I was like, "You are?" And so I Googled it, thinking he got it off a show, and I was like, he just came up with his own character name. So I wrote a teaser in Petal Man 3 on the last page. There's a newspaper that says Tornado Kid triumphs over crime or something. I forget what it says. But
that's awesome. God damn it, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's actually going to pop up in Ginger Avenger 3. So I'm going to get with my kid next time when I get close to doing that page and say, all right, what's this kid look like? What are his powers? What do you want him to do? And then my kid will have Tornado Kid on the credits page, co-created by, my kid.
Oh man, I absolutely adore that. That is,
it's gonna be cool because I'm also doing a Teen Titans style team. So we're doing Ginger Avenger 3. Then there will be the team book, whose name I haven't released yet, although I do know it. Then there will be the Teen Titans style book with a group of kids, and Tornado Kid and Kid Friendly is the leader of that. So that gets teased in Ginger Avenger 3. So I do a lot of stuff. I love Easter eggs in Marvel movies. That's like my jam.
Oh yeah.
My books, not only my comics, but my real books are just packed. I mean, packed with Easter eggs that ties everything together.
Now, with you mentioned earlier that you like the rest of us, you have the normal 9-to-5 job. With everything that's been going on, have you found it easier or more difficult with everything going on to manage your time? And you mentioned too that you have a son. Do you have a set schedule? Like, okay, I work from here to here, family time from here to here. Now it's work time, or do you find that you just pretty much hit it when the creativeness strikes?
It's kind of a schedule. Although yes, sometimes I may do more in a day if I'm on a roll with something. Typically, I work 7 to 3. I come home, I eat, I work out, and write at the same time between sets while I feed him and hang out with him and talk to him. Then I shower. Then we play games or watch a movie, and then bed. So, I mean, it's my days are pretty hectic.
I'm only imagining this, but I can see I know writer's block is a thing, but I for some reason I'm just imagining you sitting down and having trouble writing something, and you go to your son and give me another Hurricane Kid.
Yeah.
What have you got for me, boy?
Yeah, I've not had writer's block, not once, not even close. My brain.
That's awesome.
It's just filled Yeah, I want to say it was like, well, it was after my kid was born, so he's 5.5. So almost 5.5 years ago, I released my first book, which was a novel. It's called Stuffed Squirrels and Porcelain Angels. It's kind of about suicide, but it's like a dark comedy. Since then, I've written, I want to say 5 or 6 actual books, and then now 9 comics.
Wow.
So, yeah, no, I don't have writer's block.
Man.
So
if I didn't feel like an underachiever before this podcast, I am feeling like an underachiever now.
Well, yeah,
he's over here talking about writing books. I'm like, I just built one Lego set last weekend. You know, I'm feeling pretty good about myself.
That's important. Now I'm working on, I've got the 2 teen books coming, the teenager book and then the adult hero book. And I'm also working on a new novel right now that I've actually been working on for a year. This one's tough. It's very big in scope. It's a large world with a lot of characters that I'm trying to put together. I think I'm 18,000 words into it, so not even halfway over the course of a year. But what I do is, I put that on pause and worked on Ginger Avenger 3 or Pedo Man 3, and then in between those, I'm coming back to it. Oh, I guess I am working on another comic I forgot about. It's called Down the Hatch. And it's an anthology of short stories that are mostly kind of fable-like.
Okay.
So, yeah, Rich Parada worked on one story. He used to work for Marvel and DC. He lives in England now. He's a super, super nice guy, really good artist. Sean Forney, you guys know him. He did.
We know Sean.
Yep. Ren McKenzie, I don't know if you know him. He's supposed to be working. Yeah, he's supposed to be doing the next story. And then I talked to Arvell Jones. Do you know him? Co-creator of Misty Knight, or maybe he's the full creator. I can't remember.
That's probably where I know. I don't know him, but I recognize the name now.
Yeah, he's supposed to be doing another story for that one. So that book's, I'm hoping maybe next year. And the goal with that one is to get as many of the best artists I know. Well, not even the best, because there are a lot of good artists, but the artists I know with the best names and best, notoriety and best artists. I want them on this book, because I want to put it out and help my company get noticed by, people saying, man, all these people worked on this book for this. And it's a cool thing anyway. It's like I said, fables. It's different. It's going to be black and white. It's not superheroes. So it'll be a cool thing for me and them when it comes out.
Now you mentioned before that you've written, sorry, sir. You've done novels. Do you find the creative process of writing a full, length novel as opposed to having the idea for a full length comic book story dramatically different, or how do you approach those?
It's harder to remember the names. Was her dress blue? And I'll have to go find it in 10,000 words of writing. Like, where did I say the color of that dress? Stuff like that's kind of harder. My first 2 novels. Well, sorry, the first book is it really only follows like one character. So that was kind of easy because I can remember that stuff, and it's not that long. It's like 50,000 words, and that one was pretty easy to write because it had a lot of me in it. Although, like I said, it deals with suicide and stuff, and that's not where I was. But I've known a lot of people that have dealt with that, and that was part of the reason I wanted to write that book, because I wanted to write kind of a cautionary tale. So hopefully people would read it, identify it, and seek the help they need. I've been told by a few people that helped them, and that makes me extremely happy. I wrote a sequel to that one as well, and then I have a book of short stories and poems that I wrote 2 of those. A kids book for about 3rd graders on making friends, and I did a self-help for people going through divorce. So it's a lot of different stuff.
Where was that? Did you write that book like 7 years ago? Because I could have used that book right there. That was
the divorce one or the kids one, right?
The divorce one. Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote it a couple years ago, and actually part of the proceeds of that one go to a nonprofit here in town that helps out people get out of abusive relationships.
That's beautiful. I got it. See, this is why I love meeting people like you, because you know, when you hear about these, you know, the big creators and everything, you know, they tell us, oh, I did this and that, but people on the ground level like you who spread their just awesomeness, you know, like you didn't have to have done that, but you did that. That is God.
Well, and that's just a small thing too. You know, it's not a big deal. And that book really, it hasn't sold that well, you know, 'cause it's very specific and I only have so much reach. But that's going to be forever, you know, until the day I die or even into the future. As long as that nonprofit's around, I'm going to donate part of the proceeds to that place. But my goal in this company is obviously, do I want to be like rich and famous? I mean, sure, that'd be cool, I guess. But, you know, I want to hand it off to my kid. I want to create entertainment that A, I enjoy, and B, I hope other people will enjoy. But yeah, you know, if this becomes some kind of uber millionaire company, we are 100. I can tell you right now, 100%. We're going to help people that need help. Like that's responsibility for those of us that are fortunate enough to be able to help. It's our responsibility to help. You know, and I help when I can. You know, I'm not a millionaire. I do okay with my real job and stuff, but you know, and I help when I can. I donate toys at Christmas and like I do that book thing. And, you know, if somebody's got a GoFundMe for medical bills and shit and I can put money in, I will, you know, so I help when I can, but I would love, I mean, it would be an extremely awesome thing if I could like help dramatically, you know, throughout my life. So that's, you know, that's one of the goals of this company for me is to do something grand, you know, and really help out my community or a specific thing like a suicide hotline or, you know, something. I think that's important. So
that's, man, I don't even know what to say after that. Was beautiful. No, it really touches me because I mean, you know, not in that field, but I can relate to a little bit because I do costume charity work. You know, I'm one of the guys that dresses up as superheroes, and we go to events, and you know, I get to, I get to make people smile and everything. But like you, I always try whatever event I go to. After the Ant-Man suit comes off and I'm sweaty and I'm hot, there's always, well, not always, but there's almost 9 times I attempt the donation box or, you know, the T-shirt box where, you know, the money goes to the proceeds. And I always make sure, you know, I have been known to, you know, I what was it? The March of Dimes one, bought a T-shirt and I asked the lady, I go, can I get a small? And she looked at me and I go, yeah, I want a small. I gave her the money donation and I gave it to a little kid that was over there by, you know, it's like, want a T-shirt? I was like, sure. And I left for no other reason. Well, I'm bragging about it now, but I felt good. You know, not only did, you know, while I was there, did I get to do a little bit, but at the end of the day, I got to do a little bit more. And, you know, hearing that somebody like you is doing that same thing, you know, you're doing something, but doing that little bit more too. That's just what impressive as all get out.
Well, and I tell people this all the time is, yeah, little things add up. I mean, they do. Yeah. I do a little good, you do a little good, you know, and that makes a positive change in the world. Like I said, I want to do a big good at some point, and I hope I'm able to. So like the divorce book, the reason I wrote it was, and I think this is something that I've tried to do, is when something negative happens, you need to try to spin it into a positive. So obviously I went through a pretty bad divorce. I was pretty wrecked for a while over it, you know, not because of her leaving or not. Well, she didn't leave, I threw her out, but not because of that. It was really more the lifestyle change. And that's what I wanted to help people with. I was like, you know, I'm going through this now. I've learned from this experience. I want to put it in words and help people get over it. And if I can do that, then the pain I went through is less awful, if that makes sense.
Yep. No, I'm going to start talking again. I really do know exactly what you mean. I was in the same boat. when I went through mine, it wasn't so much her leaving. It was like you said, that was perfect. It was the change in the lifestyle, this huge,
Well, your life's
dramatic.
uprooted, everything's different.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the only time after time passed, and my life got back to normal, at least now the only good that's come from it is, I hate to say we live in this kind of world, but divorce isn't as uncommon as it used to be, where I have been able to reach out to friends who I found out were going through the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, look, I'm going to be honest with you. I went through the same thing. Here's the real shit you're going to have to expect.
Yes.
Because everybody else wants to sugarcoat it. You're going to be fine. You're going to be that. I'm like, no, you're not. You're going to be a fucking wreck.
Yep.
6 to 8 months, man. Buckle up, Buttercup. It's going to get, and they know what I'm talking about with sincere because, they saw me when I was a wreck.
Right.
So yeah, a book like that, God, yes.
Yep. I've sold, I don't know how many I've sold. Like I said, it doesn't sell that well. It's a very specific book. So
it's a very niche book. Yeah.
Usually it's people will see it and buy it for somebody else. I think I had one guy that bought it for him. It just, the timing happened. He was at my table and he was like, I need this book. And I was like, perfect. Cause I will sell it to you. But, yeah, usually it's people buying it for other people.
And that's great because I can promise you without even having read the book, but hearing you talk, that even if only 100 people are, I'm downplaying it, but even if only 100 people bought that book was very important to them. I
hope so. And it goes through, it doesn't just go through, like coping is like the main thing. But I go through how to buy a new house and the things you should look for, how to budget your finances.
Yeah.
Like the dating apps and the dating world now. I mean, if you're with anybody for an extended period of time, things are drastically different than they were. And I had to adapt.
Yes.
I go about the dating apps and here's what you should look for and all that. So it's a pretty cool book and it's not that long. I think it's only like 50 some pages. So it's pretty cool.
It's like one of the main messages should be was like, remember when you used to tell somebody you would call them? That's weird now.
Yes.
Now if you, it's like, I'll call you later. And she's like, call? What do you mean call? Like, yeah, we'll call you on the phone. No, weirdo. No. Text me or DM me, IM me, phone call? No, that's weird. Those are those little things that, yeah.
Called me and I remember I'm like, what? And I'll text them, did you butt dial me? No, I called. Oh. All right. Mm-hmm. What did you want? Text me.
Oh man. So I'm here. Me and Richard we're looking at your website right now. Mm-hmm. Man, I'm seeing a lot of great stuff on there. If people go to your first of all, Richard will bring it up. Could you tell us a little bit about your website?
Well, it's a website on the internet, and you have to go through your phone. Or
tell me more.
Yep. Al Gore invented the internet back in the 60s or something. So, yeah, I guess ignore the cons because those are all gone now.
Yeah.
I might do a signing later this year in a store, I hope. So that's Carl Vincent right there on the front page. That's the one. That's our new one. The book is in color, but the cover is black and white. And it's a really cool cover. It's very striking.
That is a great cover.
Yeah. I did the logos and stuff. Other than that, I didn't work on the book other than just a few suggestions here and there. But it's pretty cool. This is issue 1. I think he's working on issue 2. I'm not sure. I'm not really rushing it because we don't have cons and all that.
Yeah.
So we have customers coming back for the second one. But yeah, you can sign up for there was a free download on that page. I forget what it is though. What's it say there?
Have a short story on the house.
Yeah. I can't remember what it is. It might be it's animal cruelty. Okay. Yeah, so that's from my second short story and poems book called You'd Be Surprised with a Vengeance. So you can download that short story, you can read it, and if you like what you read, then you can go buy the whole book or anything else that I have personally written. Kind of gives you a free taste, and it's a pretty cool story about like a kid's going to his first day at work with his dad, who is security for a mob boss. So, and then things go awry. It's a pretty neat little short story, but yeah, that one's free, you know, and then you can look at all the sections there. We got the for real books. So that's Stuffed Squirrels and Porcelain Angels. That's my baby. That's the sequel. That's the sequel to You'd Be Surprised with a Vengeance. You got bullet holes inside of a explosion, because it's awesome. Yeah, all of our comics are in here, obviously, because it's comic. You have a little video which shows you some of the art for all of them except Carl Vincent. I've only done the one kids book, although after I finish my next novel, which is called Hellscape, I'm planning to maybe do that sequel there. Something I've been thinking about. I need to update that because that was years ago. And then this is my favorite page because you can see all the artists that we have worked with. They have their own little bios. You have links to all of their social media, stuff like that. There's our guy,
Hey,
Sean.
I know that guy.
Yep, there's Kevin. So I hope to continue to add to this page because for me, that's a badge of honor to have more than just a couple artists on there.
Yes, yeah.
So yeah, everything's in the store. Shirts are almost gone. They're discounted all the way to like $8, I think. Once shirts are gone, I'm never getting them again because they're a huge pain to keep in stock. It's just, that was a mistake. I shouldn't have done that.
Fine, you talked me into it.
Yeah.
Oh, you think I'm joking? No, you think I'm joking? No, I no, that if my credit card. Oh, wait, it is right there. You had me at T-shirt, man. You had me at T-shirt.
I actually do love those shirts. They're like a 50-50 blend. They're very light, tagless. I mean, they're nice shirts. They're a lot to carry around. Like I said, you get the different sizes, and it's hard to keep in stock.
Yeah.
They don't really sell as well as I thought they would exactly. Well, yeah, once those are gone, I'm never getting shirts again. I don't think. I've had people ask me like, "Hey man, should I get shirts?" And I'm like, "No." And then like 2 weeks later, they want shirts, and I'm like, "You shouldn't have done that," but whatever. So I
think even Richard we toy with that idea for like a minute, and we're like,
yeah, we got those one shirts made that was like see-through without the water.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, like when I was in the band and stuff, you know, we had shirts, and if I remember correctly, I think they sold pretty well, but band shirts are a lot different than comic book shirts.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we sold a lot of shirts. We had one, it was like the I Heart New York, but it said and it had this and Until Forever. And I love it. I still want that shirt. I wear it all the time. It's awesome. So.
Rich, I just realized, man, I have done nothing but
okay.
Here, I was legitimately worried. I mentioned to Richard earlier, for me and Richard to sit down and BS with each other for an hour to 2 hours is no problem. We'd gotten so used to, you know, when we go to a show or something, we know what the climate of people who watch, you know, internet videos is like. You know, we got to get that 5-10 minutes tops, you know. Yeah. So I was talking to Richard. I'm like, man, I don't know if I can talk for an hour. I don't, you know. I realized I haven't shut up. Richard, you're the more creative of the two of us. I'm going to sip my coffee, Richard. You talking now.
Oh, I think we went over most of the stuff. I don't think, you know, because being a writer, it's a little different, you know, when you're out in the field, because you're like the one that's selling, you know, because that's how I've got a book that's in the works right now with another studio. So I just can't wait till we get that done so I can go out on the road with it, because like the one artist, he doesn't really like to go out on the road. So it'll be me taking the book out. So kind of glad they really didn't get it done this year. So I'm looking maybe for next year to get that out. So I can kind of understand how that is, you know. Because it's a different type of sale when you're not really the artist, because people want to see you draw and stuff like that. So you're trying to tell a story to the people, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely, you know, we do these cons and some people get mad about like the fan art. I think it's cool myself. You know, I have some fan art myself.
Mm-hmm.
Some people get all mad because they're like, it's a Comic-Con and you shouldn't be selling fan art. I mean, to each their own. I think fan art's cool. But yeah, when you're between, you know, when I'm selling my books and I'm the writer, I'm not sitting there drawing for people to look at what I'm drawing, you know, and then you got two big fan art things on either side. When somebody comes around the corner, where's their eye going to go? To this handsome face or to Captain America on both sides? So unfortunately, it's not me. So, I mean, it's tough, man. And that's why I tell people a lot of things. I get messages from people all the time, you know, hey man, I'm thinking about writing this book. You know, what should I do? And I love that because I'm, like I said, I'm like 5 years into this. I have tons of advice to give. But depending on what they ask me, one of the first things I tell people is you better get thick skin and you better get it fast because you're going to get told no 1,000 times a day. When I was in the band, you know, I was also the manager. So I would be calling clubs and record labels and sponsors and all this stuff. And it was mostly no. Luckily, I was persistent and we had a lot of success and we had quite a few yeses. But indie comics is the same thing, you know. You know, if 20 people walk up to my booth, I'm going to sell 10 of them probably, but I'm a pretty good salesman. I'm a good talker and I know how to get people into what they want. And I can read people pretty well and figure out how to explain it to them that they want this. So, you know, it's, you got to get thick skin because people are just going to walk by. The first couple cons I did, man, it was rough. It took me a while to get my pitch down and all that. And luckily, the first one I had a dude next to me. His name's Eric Gutierrez. You should check him out too if you like indie comics. He's got a book called Max the Inebriated Rabbit. And, you know, I sat there and I listened to him do his pitch and stuff. And I learned from him that first con. And after that, you know, he showed me the ropes a little bit that day. And I've been a lot better since. But I got back into my sales training from when I sold TVs and shit back in the day. You know, it's qualify, you know, ask them when somebody walks up to my table, depending on how busy the con is, I've got books over here. I've got comics over here. Hey, do you like books or comics or both? Oh, I really only like books. Cool. We don't worry about the comics now. We're talking about the books. Or vice versa. Or if they like both, do you like comedy? Do you like, you know, who's your favorite hero? If I've got a little more time, what I like to do, I'm giving away all my secrets here. Now, time, what I like to do, depending on where I am, no, it's really everywhere. Where are you from? Because I drive around for my real job. I go all over Ohio and stuff. You know, oh, I'm from right here in Cleveland, or I'm from Lima, or, you know, then I say, oh, I ate at this restaurant there, or, oh, I know a guy from there. Do you know him? You know, stuff like that. You got to connect. How do I want to say this without sounding like an asshole?
We are a non-asshole judgment zone. Believe me, man.
Yeah.
Let the asshole fly. We no stranger here.
There are people in this world that only want you for their money or for what you can give to them, and I'm not necessarily one of those people. I enjoy connecting with people, especially if they're going to end up being like a fan of mine, because I care about who those people are. You know, I've had people in my life that I've realized they only talk to me when it's beneficial for them, or because they think I'm going to come to whatever store they work at and maybe buy something from them, or buy a car off them, or buy a house off them. And that's all fine, but that's only going to last 1 or 2 sales. You know what I mean? If you make a friend, that friend will come back and buy all your stuff. And that's more important. And not only, and I'm not saying I'm making friends because I want people to buy stuff. Yes, that's great. And that does happen. But I can learn something from everybody I meet, and dollars to donuts, that's going to end up in one of my books, one way or the other. I can almost guarantee it. A character tweak or a character flaw or something you might have said that I thought was strange it's gonna influence the way I write. And the more people you meet and the more ways you try to understand how people react is going to make you a better writer and a better creator. So that's just the way I look at things.
Honestly, I couldn't agree more. That you just kind of summed up the philosophy of our show, because it's like you said, if we go to a big convention, we're a little well known enough, if like we want to try to interview this celebrity, it might take us a little finagling, but it might happen. That's great. We don't care about that. We don't want. I would rather have 10 legitimate viewers that are legitimately paying attention to a creator like you than a few hundred that are watching the episode because this famous guy that the entire world knows is on the show. It doesn't mean nearly as much. There's 6 billion interviews with Sir Chuck's-a-lot over here. At the end of the day, when he leaves, we'll never talk to that guy again. But when we do shows and we talk to people like you, here we are a year later, we shared a table, side by side with each other. And here we are a year later, you're on our show. And I'm sure, like the next time we go to a show and we see you, Josh, Mike, Rich,
Yep.
That's why we do what we do. I completely respect that. And I understand that too. That is a great mentality to have in this, in the business like yours.
Well, another thing I can tell you about what I was kind of saying, and this piggybacks on that, is up in Toledo a couple years ago. I think it was like a Fantastic Con or something. This guy walked by my table, and I'm from Findlay, which is like 45 minutes south of there. And I had like one class with this guy in college, and it had been like 3 or 4 years before that. And he walked by, and I said, "Jeff." And he turned and looked at me and recognized my face, obviously, came over and talked to me. I talked to him for a few minutes, and he bought several books off me. Had I not remembered his name, he would just walk by. So, getting that connection with your fans and really anybody you meet, it's important. You have to really care about people other than yourself. And I try to. Everybody has an ego and all that. I'm a freaking comic book writer. Of course I have an ego. It's huge.
Yeah.
You got to care about other people. You have to listen when other people speak and take that in and respond accordingly, not just wait for your turn. And that being an independent creator and you're tabling at a Comic-Con, that's important. I actually, at the Jim and Dan that we did together, this kid, and I maybe got his name. I have forgot it. So I guess I'm a hypocrite. But, he came up and he talked to me. It must have been a half hour, and it was a slow show, so that was okay. And, he talked to me about his drawing and all this. And I hear that all the time, how I'm a really great artist. And I was like, yeah, okay. And he showed me his art, and I was like, that's cool, man. I will sit there and talk to somebody and listen to them and look at their art, and I don't mind. And you know what? He came back a half hour later and bought a book,
Right on.
Had he not, that'd have been all right. But, it works out. You just take your time and listen to people.
Yeah.
Make them, important, because they are important. Everybody's important.
Yes. Especially even now, with everybody being as isolated as they are, just like you said, just putting that little extra effort into making somebody's day, making somebody feel special. It might be a minute for you, but it'll be on that person's mind maybe the entire rest of the day, if not even longer than that.
Yep.
Well, it looks like we're just a little over an hour, so we did pretty good.
Yeah.
Josh, thank you so much. Richard already had the website and everything up. We've talked about what you got planning on. Real quick, you mentioned earlier work and everything, and you mentioned your son. How are you and your son doing right now during everything that's going on? I have a nephew. I have great nephews, and it's just a tricky time right now. How is everybody in the house doing?
Yeah, we're good. He just started school the other day. He's in kindergarten, so this is like the first time.
God.
And yeah, he missed preschool, so this is the first time he has been at school. Little bump in the road the other day, got in trouble, which doesn't surprise me. Well, he's my kid, so I wasn't surprised at all. But, you know, so we'll try to get past that. You know, it was nothing crazy. He's just being 5. But, yeah, I mean, we're doing all right. You know, it's luckily I work in the medical field, so I wasn't laid off or anything. So, you know, a lot of people didn't have that advantage, unfortunately. So, but I was doing fine. I worked the whole time.
Same here. Yeah. Are you preparing for that phone call you're going to get from the school? Like, Mr. Nealis, it's about your son. He was spinning around calling himself the Hurricane Kid. You know, are you prepared for that moment where you have to sound disappointed, but in real life you're like, yes, that's my boy.
Oh, I mean, it's gonna come. I was, yeah, I wasn't like the worst kid, but I definitely.
Oh yeah.
I definitely got on almost every teacher's nerves. I moved around a lot too, so I was always trying to go off and make new friends and all that. So, yeah, I mean, he's a lot like me, so I feel bad for teachers.
Rich, anything else you would like to add before we wrap this one up?
No, I think we've covered most of the bases. Is there anything you want to cover, Josh, before we get done?
Yes. Any final plugs, please?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about everything. I want to tell you, Richard, in person, man. Hey, congratulations on your graduation, man. That's really awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love, like I said, you know, like I talked about, man. I love seeing shit like that. That's great. And you're going back, right?
Yeah, I'm actually finishing up associates first, and then I'm looking for a grad program. I did get accepted at a grad school, but I just couldn't pull it off right now.
Yeah, do it, man. It's worth it.
Yep.
That's great.
So,
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So again, behalf on myself and Richard, Josh, thanks for showing up. Or thanks for showing up. Jesus Christ. Thank you for being on the show. I'm still not used to this. I really do. I miss people, you know. Thank you for coming. Like you, Kate, you're sitting at home. God, I'm so terrible with the internet. Behalf of Richard Catterjohn and myself, we hope everybody's staying safe. Richard, they're watching, but can you tell everybody where they're going to find their all of our goodness?
Yeah, just go undergroundvideonetwork.com. You can find all our social links there.
So, again, Josh, thank you very much. Tell the Hurricane Kid I said hi. And Rich, I'll talk to you here real soon. I think we're going to have a boys recap show here pretty soon. So,
okay.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
See you, everybody.